Welcome back to my new website, Soul to Soul, where every heart-to-heart conversation can usually turn out to be a soul-to-soul revelation. That's my hope for this channel. If you'd like to converse with me, send me an email. If you'd like to talk with me personally, I do sessions. If you'd like to join a group of people who are taking classes, such as watching this and then coming to Q&A nights, that's available to you. I recommend that you do. Anyway, this would be number 5 in our series. The first 3, I talked about my history, my near-death experience, how I got here. The last one, the very first discourse, was on sentiency. I hope you've done a little bit of studying and realize that, yes, you are a sentient being. Now, today, I'd like to introduce the idea that we are living in the science of impressions. Our world is highly impressionable. We are highly impressionable beings. Let me give you an example. I'm going to tell you a story, and I just ask you just listen to the story and make your own conclusions, okay? There was a fellow once I knew. He was in his early 30s, and he owned a little red Sunbeam convertible sports car. He loved it. He used to take it for long drives, and he loved to put the top down, of course, on sunny days. But he also had a habit whenever he was driving of drinking beer. And he'd throw his bottles in the back seat of his car, along with all the trash that was there. And he also liked to chew gum once in a while, and he'd stick that on the counter or wherever he could. And he'd throw things out of the car at will, that kind of thing. One day he's going for a drive, and he notices a woman standing on the side of the driveway, or on the highway, and he pulls over to pick her up. She refuses, so he takes off and goes his own way. End of story. What I'm trying to show you here is that we are impressionable beings, and people have a way of painting pictures so that we understand them. And sometimes the impressions we get are to deceive us, to outright lie to us. Now, can you tell if a person is a good liar or not? I just made up the story. Why did I make it up? I want to ask you a question. What did you think of the guy? I'll bet you formed an opinion or made a judgment about his uncleanliness, or his habit of throwing things out environmentally, or his drinking while driving, or why the woman would refuse him because of the look. You might have made a lot of impressions in your mind based on a little bit of information I gave you. But that's how people are drawn in to understand a story. And every once in a while, the speaker will throw in adjectives, verbs, content that allows you to form an opinion. That's what we call biased communication. We love to communicate. There are many ways to communicate. But as impressionable beings, you need to know how it works. So I'm going to point this out to you. We live in the world, what I call the world of appearances, where when you look at something, it may not be what you think it is, but you normally will have a conclusion for it. Another quick example. An adult, 30 years old, takes their 7-year-old son for a drive to go to the grocery store. The son's enjoying the drive, talking to his parents. When they get to the store, the son looks over at his mom and says, "Mom, why are those guys over there sitting on the curb, and what's the baskets for?" Well, she looks over, paying attention to her son, notices that he's identified a group of 3 men, each having a shopping cart filled with materials, things that they've collected through the day. She takes a breath, looks at her son and says, "Well, that's their job. Did you know that they work very hard collecting things that other people don't want? They actually do. They go around looking for things they can cash in, like bottles, where they can get money. They can buy their lunch, buy clothes, buy some new shoes, or be able to have a place to sleep at nighttime. We all work. We all make money. You know how it is. It's very hard workers. They're just taking a break." The son appreciates the answer. They go off into the store, do their shopping, and go home. Now, if you're that parent, you might have a variety of different answers that you might give. One parent might say, oh, those are called bums, people who don't like to work. Another parent might say, oh, those are the unfortunate few who don't have anything, and they do drugs. So they're not liked by most people, and they don't take showers, and they stink. There's a variety of different things you could say to a child, but if you're the parent, what that child puts in content becomes a part of his belief system. Be careful. My parents used to tell jokes. My dad used to say, you gotta watch out at nighttime. You gotta be in bed before dark. Why? Because of all the animals outside. I have to fight them every night on the way home from the factory. We used to sit and listen to my dad, and I'm talking very little. And he'd say, yeah, last night I had to fight an alligator. Every once in a while we'd say, Dad, what happened last night? When he'd come home in the morning. It wasn't so bad last night. It was just a tiger, but somebody got to him before I did. He's lucky. And he'd laugh. He'd go, what? I was so afraid of going out in the dark at night, up until about 9 years old, because I believed my father. He also told me that, I said one day, Dad, there's a bus going down the street, and it picks up a girl at the end of the street. Do you know what that's for? I had never been on a school bus or any other kind of bus. But this one bus would come trudging down our street, stop, pick people up, and they'd go to their church. He said, oh, they're called holy rollers. I said, what do you mean? He said, did you ever stop, go to where the bus stops and watch people get on and off? I said, no. He says, do that. Next time the bus comes, run down the end of the street and watch. And you'll see them. They're rolling all over the floor inside the truck, on the floor of the bus. And we'd laugh. No. Yeah, they like to roll. They're called holy rollers. It's amazing when a parent thinks they're being humorous, what a child will pick up, what they absorb, what they conclude. It's no wonder by the time we get to our teens, we have to figure out what life is all about on our own, away from our parents, because there hasn't been any truth. In most cases, however, nowadays, parents are cautious enough, understanding enough to realize that their influence on their children is mighty. That what they say, how they feel, and the conclusions they make do have a large effect on that child's growth and development. I call it personality development. From the time we're children, at an instinctive level, and I'm talking under 3 years old, we're in a very precarious situation, because if you take an infant, and I don't care whose infant it was, if you put an infant in a bedroom, calm them down, feed them, bathe them, give them everything they need, comfort them, put on the right music, it won't help if you come in the room yelling and screaming at your partner, or if the kids go into the room pinching and screaming and yelling, trying to arouse the child. This kind of fright can cause a breach in the bond that the child has with his own siblings and with his own parents. You know yourself, if you're one of those people who grew up in a dysfunctional family like I did, the screaming, the yelling, the criticism, the humiliation, the embarrassment, the name-calling of neighbors and everybody else, not a good foundation. Not at all. It takes years to break out. I was lucky I got run over by a car. Really, it gave me my freedom from the ignorance that I had possessed most of my life. I had no idea what personality development was until the afterlife. And then I realized. So what I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to talk to you about the science of impression and our capacity for being impressed, impression ability, for our own self-conversation. I want you to know something. If we look at a human being in composite, anyone, we're going to see that there are three main areas of their body that are particularly responsible for their overall sense of conscious awareness. Okay? I'll start with the head. That's the first circle. Second circle is the voice. Third circle is the heart. In this, what I call the three circles of self. Very important lesson. I'd like you to help me if you can. Think about what you do with your head. Someone's thinking senses, oh yeah, we listen, we speak, we taste, we smell, and all these influences have an effect on the impression that we receive from life, our environment, even if we're alone in our bedroom. Our thoughts, our imagination, our dreams, our capacity for vision, visual acuity, our ability to project, our mind use, mind habits, mind conditioning. All of these things are particularly unknown by the average individual. You just know, oh, we use our head. I think, I talk, I conclude, I feel. Yeah, so what? These three circles of self are very, very important if you're attempting to understand yourself as an evolving spiritual being, or even just as an evolving human, if you like. Because if you don't know what's going on when you talk to yourself, you won't know why such things go through your mind. What initiates the images we see in our mind? Is it our voice? Is it our mind? Or is it our heart? I'll tell you the truth. Everything starts with the heart. Everything. If you try to imagine maybe the story I told you about the boy with his mom at the grocery store, if you try to reimagine that, even now, you'll find that you have to feel what you were feeling when you heard that story in order to comprehend it again. You'll have to pull back your own thoughts and conclusions in order to reinterpret it. To get involved in understanding your true nature, you have to understand that each of these three circles is an organ of perception that is vitally important in the way you communicate, the way you take in impressions, and the way we conclude. For example, we talk to ourselves all day. I'm sure most of you will agree if you're not mute. You do talk to yourself all day. Often, people make suggestions, such as, why wouldn't I do this? Or should I do that? Or how about that? Maybe if I... We're always talking to ourselves about possibilities. What ifs? I wonder if. What if I did that? Will that backfire on me? What if I did this? We learn through conversation to manipulate our feelings and our thoughts so we can look at potential outcomes. You're going for an interview. The night before you go for your interview, you talk to yourself. Okay, I want to get this job, so I'm going to have to appear stable, confident, conscious, non-reactionary, and I'm going to have to show them what I've got for attribute, quality, genius. So I'll work it, I'll tell them this. No, that won't work. You think 10 different things. And each time you go, nah, you keep looking for another way. And by the time you're done, you go, oh, I'll just go to the interview. Sure enough, you go to the interview the next day. You walk in and you're lost for words. Because as much as you premeditated, you didn't take your feelings into account. All the suggestions you made to yourself were hypothetical. They might work, they might not, you don't know. But you premeditated the event instead of just being spontaneous and being yourself, trusting yourself to go to an interview, show them your resume, and talk. It's as simple as that. The more honest, the more objective, the more realistic you are, the more inclined people are to hire someone like that. But our self-talk can get us into things you wouldn't believe. I'll say that it's unintentional use of our mind. There are two types of mind use, intentional and unintentional. Just like meditation, two types, intentional and unintentional. Most of us meditate unintentionally. We're trying to figure something out, we concentrate into it. We might get an answer and we live with that conclusion. We go, okay, until I find out better, I'll live with that. Well, we don't realize what you've just done to yourself. In endeavoring to make a conclusion or to forecast or to premeditate, we've utilized our heart as if it could be dismissed, as if it had little or no importance. We just know we use it. It happens, we use our mind, but it's not something we completely comprehend. So if you sit back and look at each of these three states of mind, voice, and heart, individually, collectively, and separately, you'll find some big clues. Number one, when you talk to yourself, it's usually unintentional. You find yourself daydreaming. and somebody asks you, what were you just thinking? I was daydreaming. Correct. But you can't remember what. Or you might remember a little bit, but it's irrelevant. It wasn't particular to anything you were trying to find out. It's not as if you were trying to be inspired or something. No, you were just talking to yourself. It's a habit that keeps you from being conscious. That's right. If you can't stop talking to yourself for even 7 to 10 seconds, your chances of being consciously fluid are not that easy. Being able to answer people directly, not that easy without using your mind, employing your imagination while you're communicating. When you're listening to someone tell a story, are you reimagining what the people have said? Yes. Are you feeling what that person is saying? Yes. Are you talking to yourself? Just about what they said, but you make conclusions? Yeah. Now take that whole look at the guy in the car that we talked about and think about it for a minute. I gave you an idea for a visual representation. I did the talking. You wouldn't have to. So you had to follow. So your objective was to understand me. Now, I know that you will assimilate what I'm saying, and if I'm not careful, I could be biased and you could pick up opinions that you don't want. So to clarify, I just want to tell the truth as best as I can, objectively, without influencing people. I do know they will influence themselves, however. That whatever I'm talking about, whether it's a sunbeam car, they'll think about all the cars they've had in their life, or what kinds of cars they'd like, why they wouldn't like red. Quickly. And then the way he drives while drinking, some people are going to go, oh, that's, and others are going to, ooh, and others, what? What's the point? And yet, while we're talking to ourselves, we're not addressing our feelings. We just come to the conclusion, because of our former views, anybody that's unclean is not necessarily someone you want to hang around with. You don't want to know someone who's not got balance in their life or is environmentally unsound. So you have already made thousands of conclusions about a potential partner in your life. And this guy's probably not one of them. Now, if I said he was totally attractive and women would just fall down to be with him, well, then I've influenced you to believe he was. And so you go with that and go, well, if you're telling me the truth, then I got to believe I'd like the guy too. See how easy it is to lie, to manipulate, to bend the image a little, to project a falsity. That's why you have to be able to understand your true nature first. So, tonight, I want you to sit down and write down a list tonight. What are the things you talk to yourself about? Put it out in a mind pie of 24 hours. Say for 12 hours, 10% of my time I spend thinking about money. For probably another hour a day, I spend fantasizing. Another hour a day I spend on what ifs. What if I could do this? What if I made money? What if I won the lottery? What if she doesn't come home? What if I have to do? What if somebody died? What ifs? What else do we think about? Oh, there's work. So at work we might spend 2 hours actually concentrating, getting things done. The rest of the time it's about communicating and relating in the office and thinking about potential futures. So premeditation, a good factor, is probably half your day. And when you're premeditating things that are not related to work, we'll still call that premeditation because that's what it is. You haven't made any absolute conclusions. You just made suggestions to yourself over and over and over, like you do every day. And there's been no stopping to that self-talk. If you have a habit of judging people, thinking, oh, finding fault everywhere, you know what fault finders are. They're the people who, when you paint a wall and you do give it your best, they come in and go, oh, there's a spot you missed. Thanks for complimenting me on the job. Fault finders, it's part of our natural tendency because we were raised that way, to find fault rather than solutions. It's a tricky thing, isn't it? If you think, oh, the worst thing can happen if, well, what's the solution? And we look more at the fear because that's what we're feeling. And that drives our mind and our self-talk. The things we fear, we keep looking at them in case we can find a way out. But there is no way out. There's only one way, and that's to come back and ask yourself, why am I suggesting this to myself? Do I want to think this intentionally? No. Here's your next question. How many things in a 1 hour period do you think about intentionally? How much of that hour is intentional consideration? I'm intentionally studying. I'm intentionally reading to understand. I'm intentionally getting prepared to do a talk. I'm intentionally preparing myself to go out and do some shopping, to come home and meet other demands. But it's all intentional versus fantasy, daydreaming, just overactive imaginations, and fearful thoughts, pleasurable thoughts, fantasies. You see that we preoccupy ourselves with self-suggestion. We don't realize that it's something we rarely stop. So we don't experience the threshold of full waking consciousness until we do. If you stop thinking, hold your breath. Don't do that. But if you stop thinking for a minute and you don't allow any other thought to come in for 1 minute, and then you start thinking again, in that 1 minute you'll have experienced waking consciousness. Believe it or not, that's what it's like to be conscious. Here's another way. If you close your eyelids, when you do, tell yourself, I want my eyesight to remain active. It's very important. If you're going to meditate, close your eyes, keep your eyesight active. So when you're looking ahead, what are you seeing? Should be a dark screen like a theater. Nothing. That can help you stop thinking for a minute. Just keep looking ahead. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, as long as you can. Any pictures come in, just say, dismissed. Just dismiss it until you can get the fabric of the taste of consciousness in between your thoughts. That's how we start. If you do it every day, 10, 15 minutes a day, you build a habit that will cause your neurons to start to conform to your ideal aspiration. When you say, I don't want to think, close your eyes, look ahead, thinking's done. Now what are you going to do? Nothing. It's going to sit here, be conscious. Open your eyes. Don't think, just look. By that practice, you'll be able to listen to people talk to you without having to reimagine or re-say or re-feel what they're saying, thinking, and feeling. You'll be able to do it yourself. Small little trick. It's a meditative. I don't call it a trick, but it's a methodology to attainment. In some way, we're going to get the restlessness, the chatter, the self-talk to slow down. So that's why I use the word intent. When you have intentions to think something out, you stick with it. You stick with a point. If you want to know how much money it's going to take to go away for a weekend with your wife, you stick with it until you got all the facts and details. And then when you're done, you'll know. Because you've got everything worked out. Otherwise, you'll guess. Because it's easier than thinking. You understand what I'm saying? I believe you do. Let's go back to this. 3 circles of self. Use our mind for creative thinking, creative visualization, art, any form of creativity, any expression of love. Our heart wants to express love, the words come out without the pictures. You don't need to use our mind to express our feelings, but oftentimes it happens. As long as you are at one with your heart and your mind, you're bringing together the brain-heart integration that is required for anyone who wishes to become more conscious or expand their consciousness, to become wiser. By being completely honest with yourself about these 3 things, what you thought, what you felt when you thought it, and what you suggested to yourself at the time, you'll be able to arrive at conclusions you didn't have before, and the inspirations will start. Now let's move on to the heart again, or back to the heart. The heart starts every thought. Without a picture in mind, or without a feeling at heart, you can't get a picture in your mind. Try it. Just sit there, look at the show you're watching. Now try to not imagine what you're feeling. Okay? Easy. Now try to feel what you're not imagining. It's easy. It's your feeling. It's your natural state. Now employ your thoughts or your feelings with your thoughts. Ah, magic. Where do you want to go? The brain says, oh, I want to think about how much of an impressionable being I am. So I want to know about my self-talk or my feelings or my mind use. And investigate. Take a look at it. What do you use your mind for? Write it out. When it's done, you're going to find habits. Habits that you don't necessarily need to keep up. They're not benefiting you. Making suggestions to yourself all the time doesn't always bring you results. Making correct conclusions, however, is very important. And I'll tell you why. There's a law in the universe. I call it the law of accountability. When you think something, feel something, conclude something, your heart is involved. In the last tape, I told you that your conclusions at heart become beliefs and or conditions. They can change, but for the time that you have them, they're yours, and they condition you. So if you're thinking, and you're feeling, and you're imagining something with intent, you're always more able to control the gain and the insight and the inspirations. Most of us, when we get an inspiration, we repeat it, we review it, repeat it, make sure we've got it. Repeat it, we feel it, we think it, and then we apply it. Okay, if I continue to be honest, how will I appear to others? And you imagine being honest from now on. You just decided you're going to be honest, you'll never tell another lie. If you have to lie, you won't. You'll just be quiet, you won't say a thing. Now I want you to imagine you walking into your normal life all week long. You go to work, and during that week, what did you do? You paid attention to yourself. What did you do differently this week that you didn't do last week, now that you know something about impressions? If you start to pay attention, you'll notice. If you don't pay attention, you won't notice. What I'm saying is everyone who starts out as a soul has to account for the conclusions they made. It's part of our nature. The universe does not want us making a series of conclusions that are incorrect, because then our behavior will bring more need for greater education to us. That's how justice works, through accountability. If you look at someone and think, oh, they're a moron, I don't want to know them. It's an easy thing to think, an easy thing to feel for people who have habits, and you walk away. But then you find out this person is famous, they're wealthy, and they were there to help you, but you didn't notice it. You ignored them. You lost your chance. I want you to think, how accountable are we? If you lack conscience, if you've ever lacked conscience, even for a moment, you know what it's like to feel somewhat guilty. And when you feel guilty, what do? You think about it because it bothers you. Something's bothering you. Yeah, the conclusion is not yet resolved. Something inside you, your soul, is saying, hey, you made this conclusion, you sure you want to keep it? Ooh. You get this sense, no, all right, you concentrate, oh my God. You find out it was your fault. You admit that to yourself. And then you give insight. You should know that if you don't make the correct conclusion, you'll wake up at night thinking, about things you've been thinking about for a long time but never made the conclusion. A woman who's left her husband feels guilty, even though she feels it's righteous. But she can't have peace of mind until she resolves it with her conscience. She doesn't know that, so she keeps thinking, well, if he had treated me better, if he had been a little more honest, if he hadn't been so outrageous and flamboyant, if he hadn't been so, he never saved money, he wasn't interested, he was a boy, he liked to drink, waste our money. I just didn't see any future with it. That's why I left him. But she still doesn't feel good until she realizes the honest truth. I wasn't in love with him. I pretended to be when things got tough. But I noticed there are things wrong with him, and I stayed. That's on me. That's right. That's on you for staying in a situation that you knew somehow was not good for you and others. But you thought, no, I'll fix him up, I'll train him, and it didn't work. He wouldn't listen. You couldn't talk him into being a better person, a more stable person, a more stay-at-home dad. You couldn't talk him into not drinking. So it bothered you. But the day you stop and you say, okay, I wasn't in love with him. I want to be in love again. What am I feeling guilty about? Not having admitted that to yourself sooner, as you had the ability to identify what was wrong in a relationship when it went wrong. Maybe you didn't have the insight to look down the path when he did something you didn't like. And so you didn't see it until much later. That's because you were never taught anything about personalities, growth, personality development, the 3 circles of self, senses, resonance, nothing. So it's on you to figure out why it didn't work out. And when you finally figure it out that you just weren't right for each other, you're in a totally different world, you didn't share the same perceptions on anything. There was no agreement, a lot of disagreements. You saw fighting in your childhood, so you had arguments at home. Both lack principle. Both lack the ability to be honest and upfront and direct with each other. This is a couple who never promised to be honest with each other eye to eye. And that's why this has happened. When you're eye to eye with someone, heart to heart, you have an honest conversation about your nature. You tell them your truth that you know about yourself, your habits and all. Then they can't refuse you. If they accept you as you are, with opportunity to change, you're in luck. Because you can change. Because you can be your true self, instead of having to pretend you're something you're not. Pretending will never get you anywhere. Manipulating will never get you anywhere. You'll always be faced with your own soul in the end. Why did this happen? Because no one's ever been taught who they are, what they are, where we're from, or what it's about. None of us knows. The universe doesn't hold anybody accountable. The law of accountability works for those who are processing information to help them make sure that it's correct. When it's incorrect, you get notifications. Don't worry, if your conscience is bothering you, it'll tell you the things you haven't resolved yet, things that still need to be attended to, information you've overlooked or stashed aside or denied and hidden. You can know your inner truth. Just take this step in believing you can. Trust that talking to yourself, your soul directly, talking to your conscience, this will help you. It'll help you figure out all these little things. Back to the world of impressions. Any form of concentration is an act of meditation. You're bound to get a better answer when you're focused and concentrated than when you're just imagining things for the heck of it, or you're daydreaming, or you're fantasizing. But that's a big issue, fantasy, isn't it? We're all drawn to it as personalities. By the time we're 13, 14 years old, our biology is kicked in. We're going through puberty. Our drives change. Our desire nature changes. There's a good term, desire nature. The things you truly desire, are you aware of what they are? These are other things you can concentrate on. We will go through the whole gamut. But the thing I want to introduce to you now is the notion that when you apply your will at heart to understanding yourself, and when you're looking at an event you're trying to understand, rather than just imagining it, take time out, review that memory with pure intent. Have the intention to review every single second, every moment of your feeling, to see how you got involved in feeling the way you did. He said, she said, they did, we did. Until you understand that once you start to hold yourself accountable for your own behavior, something very wonderful will start to happen. You'll feel as if somehow your thoughts are being adjusted and it's all working out. You're getting these conclusions and they're making you feel better. That's your innate soul at work helping you arrive at the correct conclusion. Until you open that door, you can only hear the quiet whispers of your conscience. And until you open that door, you're going to have to live with yourself and your uncertainty. Because it requires you wanting to do better, to be more true to yourself. That's a fact. When you decide to be true to yourself, to discover your true nature, you'll be surprised how happy you can become. But you have to remember to pass it on to everybody else. I know, for example, that most people who grew up in dysfunctional families, the large majority were heartbroken at an early age, severely. Some had a broken will. Their parents just came at them until they completely fell in on themselves. That's even worse. The worst cases of mental health dissociation, dysfunction, come from being crippled by the people we love. Our own siblings, the kids in class that we go to school with every day, the people we choose to love at home and in our neighborhood. When they make statements that offend us, that hurt us, they oftentimes mean it. And we can feel that. And we reject it. And we avoid it. And we don't go searching for other answers. We just try to avoid people like that. You have to know you live in a world of appearances and you don't have to react to anything. Someone says, oh, there's a tornado. Okay, where? 2 miles away. All right, well, let's pray for the victims. Let's pray nothing happens. Or you can get up and go, where? Go to the basement, quick. Each of us chooses our reactions until we understand ourselves. When we understand ourselves, we liberate ourselves from these fears, these incessant fears that keep coming up in our lives because we grew up in a dysfunctional family. A child, brand new, very sensitive. You've heard me say that. But in the first 3 months to 1 year, the child is running off its instinctive nature. It means the lizard brain, the mammal brain, the lower brain, and our behind and back of our brain. That instinctive nature is really connected to our spine, our solar plexus, our heart. And it can throw us for a loop. When someone breaks a bond with you at that age, they hit you, slap you repetitively, dismiss you, humiliate you, or they're noisy, argumentative. A child just observing an argument with parents is enough to make that child nervous for many, many years. And they won't know why. They just become more protective, more self-defensive. So that as adults, they go out their house and without them knowing it, the first thing they do is scan the neighborhood for potential disasters. And when they're driving, they're almost waiting for it to happen And when they get to work, they're waiting for the ball to drop. Or then when they go on a date, they're waiting for that to fail. Do you understand? When you make a child nervous, you're upsetting their whole life potential for being integrated, conscious, mature individuals. Don't yell. Don't scream. Don't tell lies. Tell the truth as mildly as you can, but don't hide the facts. Be sure to watch your reaction. It's our adverse reactions, these kinds of reactions that train a child to do the same thing. My mother was so frustrated. We were frustrated with her. She was so angry. We used to get angry at her. She was so hateful. I almost wanted to hate her. Sound familiar? We emulate our parents' dysfunction well ahead of time, well before we understand it. Because it's the only thing we see that we feel connected to, that we could trust. And how this is how trust is knocked back time and time again. Till a child is chasing their parents for love and affection they'll never get, wishing as a 60-year-old that their parents would say one thing, one positive thing that would make them feel relieved for a lifetime of neglect. It's amazing how much we suffer, but we do. When we suffer is the lack of bond, a true bond, truth, love, authentic love. I didn't mean unconditional love. Non-reactionary, non-judgmental. Do you like fault finders? Do you like fault finders? Sure you do. They're fun sometimes. If it's not meaningful, if it's just off the cuff, joke, satire, sure, it could be humorous. But fault finding is a bad habit we pick up from our parents, our neighbors, other children. And if it doesn't stop, you end up looking like Donald Trump when you're older. You end up sounding like Donald Trump. He's a fault finder. A lot of fault finders in this world. A lot of people suffering deep conditioning. Donald Trump was raised well, I understood. He had lots of money. He had everything except true love, true affection, true insight, and a true education from his parents on what it is to be who he was. We usually let our kids grow up on their own. Just watch them. They'll grow. Feed them, water them. They're fine. That's not the way to raise a child, and you know it. If you're going to have a child, get to know every word you teach your child, every word they use. Make sure you gave them an insight on what that word meant. If they overreact, help them understand what it was for. Tell them why you think they overreacted. Because they need affection. They need trust. They need love. They need comforting. And they need reassurance that you'll never lie to them again. You understand? Trying to be as conscientious as you can with your children, you have to understand. Put yourself in their situation. They're recording information. It's at an instinctive level. If the bond is broken before they're the age of 3, they will grow up and have to overcome the dysfunctional aspect of their nature. They may never understand consciousness unless they really, really make the effort to study and understand themselves. It's not an easy task for people who have never been taught. But I know the universe. And the first thing I realized, I wasn't being held accountable for my misfortunes, my mistakes, my misknowings, my negative deeds, my shame. No, I was understood. They gave me understanding. And then they explained how it was that we're all in this condition that we don't understand because it was never given to us. Why? Because the ones that knew that they knew what to do. We have a genetic marker in our DNA that if we get upset, traumatized, or introduced to dysfunction before the age of 3 on an instinctive level, we will grow up to be overreactionary, impatient, hesitant. We'll have blow-ups. We'll have arguments. We'll fight. We'll hate. This is the problem. If we're taught properly, we'll escape all that. But not until. So it's up to you. It's up to you as a parent to make sure that when you raise your children, your reactions are sublime, that they're understandable, that they're not overreactive. My son, I made a deal with my friends. When you come over to visit my son when he was new, I said, for the first 2 years, nobody can overreact. They went, what? I said, when you come in, if somebody spills a glass of milk, don't go, oh, I'll get it. No, just let it be, smile, and one of us will clean it up. I don't want my son to pick up on how to overreact to a normal situation. In my own life, when I was, I think 18 or 19, I was in a car. I had stopped at a store, bought myself a drink, and I had it between my legs while I was driving. And I had to stop so I wouldn't hit this car. And you know what happened? I hit the car. I checked myself after and went, what was that about? I didn't want to spill because I got beaten for it when I was younger. So I went back, put the drink between my legs the next day, again, and went driving. And if I spilled it, so be it. And I got free from that condition. All these conditions have to be worked out, so don't introduce them to your child. And if they've happened to you, don't feel sorry for yourself. Just know we're all in the same boat. We're all here to understand our true nature. And if looking at a negative reaction is the way to discover the truth, then so be it. Look at why you reacted. You'll find evidence in your own memory of where it came from. Most likely it came from your parents, your siblings, somewhere at home, at school, in your youth. But I also know something else. The roots of what we call ego, for those who are thinking spiritually about their own advancement into enlightenment and oneness, the roots of ego are born in the moment we lose our bond of trust with our parents. It takes a negative action, a negative environment, for a child to stop growing the way they were intended to. And that is a genetic implant. What I'm saying, before you're 3 years old, if you're taught how to be critical in a negative way, to criticize people, humiliate them, if you're taught how to complain in a negative way about everything and everyone, and if you're taught that punishment has value, you being punished, parents think it's going to make you change. These are all grand delusions. There's no benefit to punishment. There never will be. None. The universe holds no reserved judgment with the intent to punish anyone for being unenlightened. You're seen for your development, not expected to outgrow it quickly. You're given time and opportunity to do so, rather than being chastised, humiliated, embarrassed, and throttled for it. These rewords are very important. They're going to come up in another class, but I want you to hear them now. Critical, complaintive, punishing tendencies. They're all part of a syndrome, a personality syndrome that I call the accusation syndrome. The belief that an accusation has validity, has value, that there's benefit to it. When you're taught to believe that accusing somebody of something has value, you'll be doing it. Turn on the news, you'll hear people complaining, criticizing, and wanting to see someone get punished every night. Why? It's the illusion. They think there's a benefit. Or Kavanaugh did this, punish him, take him out, hang him up. Listen to the trolls, what they write. However you sit on an issue, it's irrelevant. As long as it's a matter of conscience to you, then you'll get to see what the real root of the situation is. As in the Kavanaugh case. Did it lack conscience? Perhaps, especially when he was younger. Did it change? Perhaps. That's not for you or I to know necessarily. We can know. But my point is, when you look for principles, ethics, conscientiousness, morality, you'll find that the people who suffer under those conditions are all missing out on the greatest thing in life. True happiness, true love, creativity, ambition, passion. It's all yours. If you can give up those 4 things, you'll gain everything else. Because these are the things that trigger the self-defense, self-protective program in our DNA. A child doesn't necessarily learn to humiliate other children. First, he gets humiliated, suffers the embarrassment, subjective to it at heart. He gets brokenhearted. He tries to survive it. And only later, after repetition, does he ever do the same thing to someone else. It's not normal. Is it normal for you to want to punish people, to humiliate them, to criticize them, condemn them? No, I don't think so. Not your true nature. This is the egoic nature, the accuser in us. It's very tempestuous. When you're living a dysfunctional life, it's so easy to be drawn into criticizing those who don't understand you, to condemning them, to punishing them with your attitude, or just a flick of your finger, or a bad letter, or taking them to court. In some way, if you're driven to be like that, it's all negative, and you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to end up totally unsatisfied in your own personal life. And I'm not sure it won't destroy your relationship. I don't know many relationships that have ever survived it. I see people together that are together because they have no other choice, or they say so. An older couple in their 50s and 60s who have lost love for each other, they might find it easier just to stick it out together for the sake of the children, finances, and continuity. But it doesn't mean they're happy. So yeah, if you've got critical, complaintive, and punishing tendencies, then you did come from a dysfunctional family. And that's the first thing you want to get rid of in your life, because that's not you, not the true you. And that's the way I need you to talk to yourself tonight, to tell yourself that when you listen to someone, are you letting them paint the pictures? Are you letting them tell you how to feel? Listen for yourself, think for yourself, feel for yourself, and when you go home, reevaluate. Meditate, concentrate on it. Ask yourself, is this my true nature? It could be just the conditioning of your nature at the time, so it's temporary. It might last your whole life. But if you try to undo it, then the changes are possible. It's the people who learn to love authentically, to care, and have compassion authentically that are the best suited for dealing with these kinds of situations. So why weren't we all taught this? Again, no one knew. And the ones that did, they don't want you to know. They want you to stay dumbed down. They want you to live in the propaganda of the media and the thoughts and the dissertations put out by the negative every day. I don't know about you. I can't stand looking and listening to Donald Trump's tweets anymore. But I know he holds a valuable position in this world. He holds up a mirror to society. Everyone can take a good look at themselves when they see him. I see things in him that I got rid of as a habit long ago, and thank God. I see him say things I would never imagine saying nowadays, ever. I see him treating people with such disdain and dismissal, such arrogance. What does it tell me? It tells me the truth. This is an ego, unchecked, undeveloped, and ungrown. Not a personality, an ego. It's the dark side of our personality. It's the critical, complaintive, and punishing side, the accusing side. And this is stripped when we're children, up to 3 years old. It can happen after as well. But the most difficult years, the most sensitive years, are those first 3. So treat your child with the respect you would want from you for yourself. Remember, your child doesn't know any of these emotional scenarios, so tread carefully as you go ahead. Think about what I said. We'll come back. We'll go further into the science of impression and the world of appearances in our next take. Thank you for joining me, and gracious peace to you.